Hi, welcome back, students. This is the second part of our setting up permissions on a Windows system and just permissions in general. The I went ahead and going on from our last video, we set up our permission groups. We'll go back into those just so you guys get a quick recap. We go back into we have our 3 users we created: professor, student, and adjunct. And we have we put them in the pre-made group. So we made 2 separate groups. We did Broward staff, which contains the adjunct and professor, and your IT students, which has your students in it. The professor is also an administrator for this network. So now since we have those labs and everything, the idea is what do we do with it? Well, when we are setting up when you're using permissions, this is how you can make data or have people access certain areas on your network or on your computer. Example, I see here I have a log, and there's my hello file. So let's say, let me do this. Let's say if I want to we'll make another folder here. We'll call it grades. All right, pretty simple. And in this grades, we're gonna have make another folder. We'll just call this IT grades, and we'll just make this let me see, we'll call this course. Let me see, course evals. Right, make this capital here. Okay, so and what I'll do is I'll make just a quick text file. Let me do this text document. So we'll call this IT evals. There you go. And we'll make IT grades. Right. There we go. Just do some data on there. All right. So you got a grades, you got a colors. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is so we can actually play around with setting up permissions. So right now, if I look at my drive, right, my actual drive, right click, I should have a tab that says security. Now again, this is if you're running an NTF file system, you'll have security. If you have FAT32, you won't have that tab. So if you look here, this is everyone that has access to the drive. With this authenticated users, so people who can log into the network. The system has it, administrators have it, and users have it. And remember, these are default. So if you look here, users, they can read, execute, control. They can basically read and write to it, or will read and execute to it. Administrators, they have full permission. And if I hit edit, I can actually edit it and change it. Now, if you notice, you never see the deny clicked off. You always see everything under allow. And best practice is you never want to touch deny. You never want to deny anyone permissions. You only want to allow them, because by default they're going to have no permissions, and you assign them. It's known as least privilege. So it's easier for me to give you privileges than to take privileges away. Like if I give someone admin rights just straight out the gate, and then I realize later on, oh man, he's not supposed to have admin rights. Yeah, I can take it away from him, but it might infect his work, because maybe he was doing something, or of course the person might be like WTF. So it's a good practice. You give people the least amount of privileges, and if you realize they need more to do their job, then you can grant them step by step until just what they need. So, and a lot of times when you start clicking with deny, like if I deny someone write privileges, I might actually also, because some of these privileges are tied together, if I delete write privileges, I might take away his modification privileges, but he might need modification privileges for reasons. So it starts to get really tricky. So it's usually best just to use the allow. So okay, this is the L drive, the root drive. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna start locking things down. Now here's the grades. Now for the most part, I'm gonna do hit and for this scenario, let's just say grades. Teachers have access to grades. Let's say students don't, because it's you have private information. You don't want your other classmates to see what your grades are, but as the professors, the teachers, they need access to that data. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to properties and we're gonna go hit security, and we're gonna go ahead and let me see. I'm gonna hit advanced. Now this is the advanced tab. These are everyone that has the ability for these. So I'm going to go ahead and let me see. We're going to just go ahead and delete the student. We don't want students to have access to this drive. So we're going to go ahead yes. Let's see. You did not want to remove because the objects. Oh, okay. All right. Inherent permissions. Let me just kind of tap on this real quick. If I go up to the lab, let me go back here. Inherent permissions mean that anything that has this top level is going to percolate down through whatever files or data within that level. If you look here, students have read list folders, or read execute list folders, and read. So if I go to my grades and if I look here, they are inheriting those rights from that root. So if I look here and it's grayed out, so they can read, list folders, and write. Now let's say, and inherent permissions are good when you're trying to, when you're setting up policies. I'll give an example. Let me come back up to my top lab, and we're going to go ahead and give the users, we're going to give them the ability to modify. Yeah, we'll give them the ability to modify. They don't have full control, but they can modify. They have very close to full control. Now, since their permissions are getting inherited, if I go back to grades, I go to security, as you see, they're now modified. So they're inheriting the permissions from whatever levels above them. Again, this, as you see, this can be very dangerous if you're not careful, because you can accidentally give people permissions to data they shouldn't have permission to. So the way around it is, and again, I don't want to delete, I don't want to go back up here, and I don't want to, again, I'm working out the idea of least privilege. I'm going to go ahead and let me take away, let's see, where's users? Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and take away modification. And I want to work with the idea of least privilege. So I don't want to take away all their privileges, because they need to have access to, let's say, the labs, and they need to have access to the log. So if I remove all their privileges, they're not going to be able to access anything. I just don't want them to access my grades. All right, so we'll go to properties, we'll go to secure, and what I'm going to do is when I go to advanced, I'm going to say disable inheritance. All right, so right now, and it's going to tell me, hey, if I do this, I'm going to break permissions. Do you want to do it? Yes, I do. So now this makes them independent. They're not pulling their permissions from the top level. They're going to keep what they originally inherited from. Actually, if I cancel, let's see, do we have, okay, if you look here, it tells me where they're inheriting it from. So if I go ahead and break inheritances, boom, there you got none. So again, I don't want my users to have access to this file at all, so I'm going to go ahead and remove them. I'm still going to keep now I'm going to add, because actually, you know what, let's do this. Let's cancel. We should have done this at the top. Let us, here we go. This is what I'm going to do. No, I don't want to share it out. I'm going to go ahead and remove users to begin with, because we don't want to have anyone. This is IT folder, so we just want to have the Broward staff, and we're going to have the IT students. There we go. Okay, so Here's my, again, same thing. Students have, no permissions. Now the Broward IT staffs, I'm going to give them full control because they're going to have admin rights throughout the entire thing. Now, if I wanted to take away the administrator, I can take away the administrator. The reason I'm going to leave it is maybe like your IT guys might have to go in to do maintenance. You usually keep administrator as a default, but I also want to give administration rights to Broward students. Again, at the top level, as we drill down through through our file structures, we can start restricting them, and I'll show you that. Okay, so let's go back to our grades, go to properties, security. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and edit. Actually, well, here is where I can edit, and I can set permissions. I can add people or add groups, but I'm going to go to the advanced tools. Again, I have inheritance is broken. I'm going to go ahead and add. Let me add. Oh, let me see. You must be an administrator with these privileges. There we go. Now I'm going to audit. It's still not letting me add. Let's go ahead and go back up one more. Or maybe in hand. Let me see. There we go. Go ahead and re-enable an inheritance and then re-break it. Okay. Properties, security. Okay, these are still populating. All right. There we go. Okay. Let's see. I want to go ahead and remove. No, not systems. We want to remove systems. Let's go ahead and remove. I'm just going to clear this out. Again, if I go to my IT students, I hit view. Let's go ahead and let me remove. Let's go ahead and break and remove them. All right. There's my Broward staff, and I hit edit. Again, I can select this to deny, but we're gonna keep everything alive, everything allow. And this is I can do it to just this file only. I can drill down deeper into my files and subfolders. So for the most part, I'm gonna just keep it this folder, subfolders, and files. And Broward staff they'll be able to do everything. All right, they still have full control over it. So we'll go ahead and hit OK, apply, OK. All right. So now students can't log into this. Now let's say course eval. And what I want to do here, we'll go back to my computer management. I just want to okay. I want to see my groups. All right. So what I'm going to do is Broward staff. Good. Okay. So what I want to do is for my course eval, I'm going to go ahead and, again, maybe I don't want the adjunct professors to see this, right? So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new group, which I'll call it Dean. Okay, yeah, I'll just keep it Dean. And I'm going to add the professor to it. All right. And click OK. Go ahead and create. Close. Okay, so now I have a new subgroup called Dean. This is staff, this is adjunct and professor, but this is just the Dean. This is like your head professors or head dean. And for this one, let's let that this circle and this little question mark is pulling inheritance down. So there's my Broward staff, there's my administrator. This one I want to have just basically just the professor, just the people who are able to view this. So if I go edit, and let's say if I want to remove Broward staff, it's not going to let me because I have inheritance. So I'm going to go ahead and do advance. I'm going to break inheritance for this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep administrator. You always want to have administrator because you need some way for people to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove Broward staff. Systems you also want to keep. This is your Windows file system. This is where it does your index and everything. Again, you want to keep that. Authenticated users, I can actually remove this, but I do want to have my system admins log into it. I'm going to go ahead and add. I got to bring back inheritance. Let's do this. We'll disable again. Yes. Okay. Why is it not letting me add? I don't want to edit. Let's go back up here. There we go. We have to add it from this point. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type Dean, D-E-A-N, check for name. There's my Dean group. Dean's going to have full control. Apply. Now remember, the professor is part of the Dean group. And if you notice two little people, that means I'm a group. If it's a single person, that means it's a user. And we always want to use everything by groups. As you see here, I don't have to make a user and add them here. I can add everything through my groups, and then I just go to here and I can manage my groups. So we'll go ahead. Let's go back to advanced. What I want to do is good inheritance is broken. I'm going to remove borrowed staff because I don't want the professor to be able to, or the adjunct to be able to see it. So only the system files can read it, system admin and the head professor, deans, can watch it. Okay. Now IT grades, we'll probably keep this the same because these are grades, so we want everyone to be able to see it who can. So what I can do is, alright, let's go ahead and hit edit. Nah, it's still doing that. I can authenticated users. These are, again, this is system users. If I'm on a domain, this would be my domain users. But right now, it's only the administrator and borrowed staffs can log into it. So the next one will go to lab. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep lab pretty much everyone as it is. I'm going to make sure the students are in the labs. Okay, but let's say, let me see, IT students, right? So what I want to do is, okay, they can read, write. Okay, they can't change this stuff though. They can just read and write. Now the log one, the log file, we're going to give the students. I want to increase their privilege because in the log files they should be able to write to it. Let's go IT students. So I'm going to give them write permissions. I'm not going to give them modify though. We'll just keep it writes. So they can write data to it. Now if I go to here, let me see, IT students, we're going to change permissions. Now they're still inheriting it from the top folder, but we can add to it. We can add to their permissions. So let's go IT students. Let's see. No, we don't want to do that. I don't want to break their inheritance either. Go back out to the advanced. We're just going to do it from here. Alright, yeah, we'll keep them. I'm not going to set special permissions. If I break inheritance and I click special permissions, that breaks this down more, where you can do I can do like delete, or they can't delete. They can do certain modifications. They can list. They can do a directory. Special permissions. In fact, let's see here. Actually, let me make sure we're doing this right. I want to check here. If I look here, go to security. Let me go back to the students, and we'll go to special permissions in a minute. Let's see. I don't think I applied it. Yeah, read, write. Oh no, wait. IT students. There we go. You know what? We are going to go ahead and break inheritance just for the read, write, execute. Disable inheritance here. Go back to the IT students. I'm going to go ahead and edit. I want to add them. Okay, they do have write promotions. Alright. Go ahead and apply. Okay. Now if I drop down to this one, okay, yeah, read, write, execute. Okay, so they have write permission. So, and again, I'm kind of going a little bit further than what you do in A+. This whole thing you would actually be setting up, and most likely when you get this in-depth in permissions, it's on an actual active controller or a domain server. So it gets, much easier. But this is mainly just for demonstration purposes. So, all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this now, and I'm going to go ahead and log in as the professor or the adjunct, so you can kind of see how rights work. And that's going to be the last and pretty much final lecture in this section.